Greetings and salutations. Happy New Year to you. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. And if you know anything about the history of this program, Derek, it is an absolute banner day for us because on the resume we can put down another year, right?
Oh yeah, this was resume day. I forgot about
resume
that.
day.
You always did that where you talked about
whatever line of work you're in. Just remember, you could get laid off tomorrow, and Derek and I have. But you can put down that you worked there till 2023. Nobody needs to know it was the second day of the year when you got gas.
That was essentially what happened to us because it was the second week of January where it actually worked out for us when we got gassed out from the radio job because it was January 2020.
Was it January 10th?
14th.
So we were ahead of the curve on layoffs.
We were. In hindsight, you wish you could have blamed it on COVID, but no, they just
kind of
can.
Out. I mean, when we just tell people like, yeah, I got 2020, I got laid off. They're like, oh yeah.
They gassed 1,000 people all over the country, and some dude in New York just crossed us off a spreadsheet.
It was more than Derek.
Our handsomeness, the quality of our show.
It was all of that.
All of that.
Although, you know what, we did get to go on before we get to the disaster that was the Colts game. And thank you, by the way, for joining us. Thank you to Bailey & Wood, who is the presenting sponsor of Query and Schultz, and as well, of course, Lou Malnati's, because we are inside the Lou Malnati studio. Want to say hello to Chateau Kitchens and, of course, WGU Indiana and our friends at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. We'll tell you about each of those over the course of the show. But, Derek, a lot of fun on Friday night on the annual New Year's Eve party at Bob Cavoyan's house. One of the fun things about that was we did get to see a lot of our former coworkers.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the behind the scenes people, like the engineers and the Bob and Tom writers and people like that. I actually had this was the most eventful New Year's that I've had since probably I was maybe in my mid-20s. We were out till 2 a.m. for two consecutive nights. My wife and I, which never happens. That we're both out that late. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, we weren't out getting schmammered or anything. We're just out having fun and being social with friends.
I saw you at Bob's party. They had a wonderful live entertainment of a band playing, including Michael Cleveland, who is a Grammy award-winning violinist, fiddle and violin.
Fiddleist?
Is that right?
Can you say fiddleist?
Fiddler.
Fiddler. Yeah, that's right. Fiddler.
But he wasn't fiddler on the roof. He was fiddler in the basement. But nonetheless, I saw you for 2 seconds come down the stairs. You looked, and then you went back upstairs. I never saw you again.
Yeah, I know. We don't need to always talk. I know that you like to lean on me as a little bit of a crutch in those situations.
People asked me where you were, and I'm like,
there were a lot of people that wanted to come up and talk to me that I hadn't seen in a while, and also strangers and fans and all of that. I mean, people are there, obviously, for Bob Cavoyan, Radio Hall of Famer, and Becky, who is a gregarious personality and a gracious host. But if you're kind of making a power rankings of the Cavoyan New Year's Eve party, who are the heavy hitters in this room, I'm way up there. I'm way up the list.
No, not really.
Yeah. No, you could tell. I mean, how many people wanted to come up and talk to me and take pictures and all that, and it's fine. It's my life.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. No problem with that. Colts life not going so well.
No.
I know.
Derek, let me tell you what. It's probably an obvious narrative that I noticed during the game when I was watching it. I'm not alone in that, and I sent a tweet out about it. Sometimes I wonder after the fact, I read other people's work, and I'm like, that sounds awfully familiar, but that's a different talk show. I'm sure you noticed this. Much has been made about the fact that not late, I'm not sure where it was in the game. I guess it was after half. I don't remember. It all runs together, but Nick Foles got hurt.
Yeah.
And Nick Foles was sacked, and he's laying on the ground.
Early third quarter, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say it was after halftime. Nick Foles is laying in the middle of the field, and he's writhing in pain. And, I mean, he looks like – honestly, it was like, oh, my goodness. And Thibodeau, the really, really good rookie for the New York Giants who got the sack on him, is sitting next to him doing snow angels in the turf, even though there was no snow, right? He's doing this. And, I mean, literally, Foles is – and the Colts linemen, the entire offensive line, is just kind of looking around, stepping over him, road hazard here. Not doing anything. Later in the game, Daniel Jones, decent quarterback for the Giants. You know, they took him high in the draft. They've kind of been patient with him, and he had a really good game, at least with his feet, certainly. Had a play where he was running the ball, started to go out of bounds. There was a late hit. Questionable call in the late hit, but a late hit nonetheless. And the New York Giants offensive lineman, I mean, a scuffle ensued on the sideline. They're in there immediately defending their guy. On one team, you had the teamwork, the camaraderie of guys immediately coming to the aid of their teammate. And the other one, their teammate writhing in pain while somebody else is laying next to him doing snow angels, celebrating the fact that they just got a sack. And the offensive line found it a nuisance to have to step over both bodies in order to get back into the huddle and stand around and look at each other. That team is totally checked out. They have no cohesiveness. They have no heart. They have no desire. They have absolutely no direction right now whatsoever. And that is an absolutely abysmally embarrassing performance for a National Football League team.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said there. And it's the reason why you can't bring Jeff Saturday back. You can't. This has been a failure. This has been even worse than the national pundits who mocked the Colts and mocked Jim Irsay for doing this could have ever imagined. I mean, the Colts, Jake, you would agree with me with Jeff Saturday. They were in a bad situation. They were down bad. Right? That's a bad situation for an interim coach to walk into. They've gotten worse.
Yeah.
They are a worse team right now than they were when they were 3-5-1. Right. They are. I mean, you know how hard it is to lose by double digits every week? That's really hard to do.
How about their second half score tabulation?
It's insane, right? One of their competitive games with Jeff Saturday was a game where they were outscored 39-3.5. They've been outscored 33 donut in a quarter. The Giants, who are a very team, like the Giants are, they're middle of the road, but with a middle of the road quarterback. They filleted them yesterday. I mean, they shredded them.
I know.
That game was over in the first.
And they were playing
the
nice
first
with
quarter,
them.
I guess, was competitive. In the middle of the second
Giants,
quarter.
literally, the Giants were like, this is beautiful. Literally, we are one game into 2023, and we already have our first tax write-off.
Yeah.
We got a charity here. You know what I mean?
You know, that Giants team, it's one thing to get just destroyed by the Cowboys. The Cowboys are a legit title contender, but that Giants team is not as good as they
they're
looked.
a playoff field filler, right?
And Daniel Jones looks like prime Mike Vick against them. I mean, it was no contest. So
and I agree.
Derek,
the defense has been a strong suit for the Colts. That's been like the one decent thing you can say about them. They were terrible.
We're all human, and at some point, you just roll over and die. And I think the Colts have just rolled over and died. It's a very serious accusation to say that a team has quit. But, Jake, when you look at the results, how can you not say that? Because if the Colts haven't quit, then, oh, my God, this is even more of a crisis than I thought. If they're trying right now, all of them are trying their best, then that's even worse.
You know, mercifully, this season's going to come to an end in a week. And it's going to come to an end in a week where there is going to be a game played between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans.
For the division.
Yep. For the division. And I said this earlier this morning. You know, they pass out the hats and not the big hat thing.
They love the big hats. I'm telling you. They're sweeping the nation, man. Isn't it funny how everything that I embrace and that I talk about that you deride on this show ends up being a thing? Did you see the Washington Commanders mascot? Major Tuddy? Huh? Who embraced that early on? I'm telling you, this big hat thing, it's taken over everywhere.
I would like to let the record state that the Washington Commanders are the biggest disaster in the National Football League, not named the Indianapolis Colts.
Great marketing.
They have an owner who is much maligned, who the other owners are talking about having removed. They have a quarterback that was run out of Indianapolis and then reinstated in Washington at the end of the year, and like he did in Indianapolis, basically cost his team a chance at the playoffs, despite the fact their head coach wasn't aware of the fact that it eliminated them from the playoffs. And they have fans who have completely jumped ship because they play in a stadium 12 miles outside of the city for which they're named, and nobody goes to it anymore because apparently it's dilapidated despite only being like 35 years old. This is the franchise that, because they latched onto something Derek said, that Derek thinks makes them trendsetters.
Trendy, cool, sexy, hip, with it.
Now, the big hat thing, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
It is awesome.
They've ripped the helmets off of the golf carts that took players out to the pitcher's mound in 1978.
Pop it on your dome.
And put them on people's heads.
Yep, pop it on your dome.
So it used to be that like the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars would get a hat that says AFC South Divisional Champions. This year they have new ones. I've seen them. They have new hats, and they might even be the big hats, but they actually say simply not Indy or Houston, right?
Well, yeah.
Literally, it's like two teams. The two members over 4'6" of the Lollipop Guild are going to play to find out who the starting center is.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not hard to win this division. Yet this will be the 8th year. Not only is this
Yet
the 8th year in a
Colts
row,
were 3-3-1 and punted on the whole year before they were even halfway through.
Not only was this is this the 8th straight year that the Colts will not win the AFC South, Jake? If Jacksonville wins, then every other team in the division will have at least 2 AFC South championships since the Colts last won. Jacksonville would have 2, Tennessee would have 2, Houston would have 4.
And Houston's the one that's probably most circling the toilet at this point.
Yeah, but at least they're going to have their pick of the litter when it comes to quarterbacks coming up here in the draft. And the Colts, we have a lot of clarity now. Colts almost certainly are either going to pick 5th or 6th. So if they win, they're not going to cost themselves like 6 draft spots, which is good, right? They can't fall below 6th. And they probably can't get above 5th.
How many franchise quarterbacks are in this draft?
I have no idea.
Maybe 3. Maybe.
Maybe is aggressive. 3 is aggressive. I would put the over-under at 1.5.
Okay.
And I think that's what you're working with most draft classes.
Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Will Levis, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the Colts are drafting
Richardson
5 or 6,
is in that mix
that's
too.
That's kid out of Florida, right? I don't know, man. They may well end up with the Daniel Jones of this class.
Bears are going to trade down, I think.
Think so?
Yeah, but they might trade down with the Colts. Who knows, right? Could. If the Colts have all these assets that people talk about, then
what assets?
Then maybe
they
can maybe they can move
What
forward.
Assets do the Colts have?
I do think that there are some individual pieces. Like I think Jelani Woods, Michael Pittman Jr., who you're going to have to make a decision on contract-wise coming up here, and Alec Pierce are the makings of a decent pass-catching core.
Right.
And depending on what you do with Paris Campbell, Paris Campbell's like a number 3. He's a nice number 3 to have. The days of hoping that Campbell's going to be like this transcendent playmaking player, I think, they're out the window now. But those are some nice pieces there. Defensively, I think you can
they have good defenders.
Look at it and say, okay, Grover Stewart is an all-pro caliber player. DeForest Buckner's still at the peak of the prime of his career. Linebacker, they have a good group of young linebackers. Obviously, Okirike with the contract coming up. So if you're really staring at the Colts, there are things there that can be built
Is Shaquille Leonard back?
It's just that everything else looks so broken.
Do you bring back Shaquille Leonard?
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere because you can't trade for damaged goods.
I think, Derek, the problem for the Colts is this. The problem for the Colts is when they were 3-3-1 and Jim Irsay basically commanded that Matt Ryan come out and Sam Ehlinger go in those games. And Ehlinger wasn't terrible, but they didn't win them. They're 3-5-1, and then boom, he makes the coaching change. He brings in Jeff Saturday. They win a game. Hooray. And then, 0-6.
The bottom falls out, yeah, basically. Well, ever since the Eagles lost.
I think the players saw changes that were being made prematurely and figured, you know what? If management and ownership has punted on this year, then I am too.
Yeah.
And everything just
You can only
apart.
deal with so much, Jake. I mean, that Minnesota collapse feels like 100 years ago. That was 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And since then, you've lost by, 17 and 28?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to come back from that. It is just we're all human, and I think that's what's happening with the Colts. If they would have kept Frank Reich for this season, he probably still loses his job at the end of the year. It's probably
it wouldn't be this bad.
No,
right?
they probably would have gone 7-9-1. Gun to my head, pick the record if they were with Frank Reich. Probably 7-9-1. But you'd rather have this because for the long-term future of the team, it's better to just be bad than be where the Jets are right now, where you get kind of tantalizingly close and you're going to pick 18th.
Right.
So I do think when the smoke clears from the smoldering wreckage of this season, there are going to be some positives here moving forward. I don't believe, and maybe this is me being overly optimistic, I don't think the Colts need a full rebuild. But what
I would
they
agree
do
with that, but they need a major retool.
Is they need a reset up top. And they need a recalibration up top. And they need a new head coach, period. There's no defensible argument for bringing back Jeff Saturday. None. There is one, I guess, for Chris Ballard. I am not one that wants to argue that way, but you could make that argument.
Ballard's coming back. You know that, right?
Regardless of what they do, they need to have a bit of a come to Jesus moment here with Irsay and with everybody else. Let's get everybody on the same page. Who's going to delegate what? Who's going to do this? Because the mistrust and the brokenness, for lack of the fracture, is apparent every Sunday. When the Colts go out there, there's just no leadership.
I have a question for you that I hope this isn't an offensive question.
Does it look like I've gained 10 pounds from the holiday break? Because all I've eaten is butter, cheese, meat, and bread for like the last 10 days straight.
Wait till you turn 50. When you said come to Jesus, it made me think of this. Did Joseph and Mary ever have other children?
No.
Do we know that for certain?
Yes.
Was there something that happened that I'd forgotten that I'm theologically forgetting?
I think. Does Jesus have a half brother?
Well, that's what I'm curious about.
Like, was there another story? They didn't really do divorce back then, right? Right? You get like,
well, I would think
hand chopped off or something.
I can understand if Joseph might have had some trust issues, but that would be a tough act if your brother was Jesus, right?
I'm just, I'll just be honest with you, Jake. I tend to get uncomfortable sometimes on the show just when we're talking about like sports things or inappropriate things. Like this one feels like I don't want to get like struck.
No, I understand, and I'm not. I'm not even
where I sit.
I'm not even trying to be funny.
Like,
I'm just. But I will admit that it would be tough. That would be a tough.
I don't want God to smite me.
That would be a tough older brother to have.
Talking
would
about
it not?
this. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It'd be a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're used to that when somebody else gets more attention and praise and is more worthy of that. Like you just kind of have to roll with the punches, even if you yourself are a holy figure. So, you know what that's like.
Am I the one that spends 3 weeks telling other people it's my birthday?
It's time to get to our Lou Malnati's Pizzeria Who's Cooking segment, brought to you by our friends at Lou's. You know what I did?
This is the size of the actual tomatoes that you find in a pizza, Chicago-style pizza from Lou Malnati's.
Remember the Thursday ice storm where it dropped like 40 degrees in however many? Probably not the best decision that we ever made to be on the roads then, but at 5 o'clock on that Thursday,
I was out.
We really wanted pizza. And we're like, let's just go over to Lou's right near my house in Midtown.
Yeah, right there in Ferguson.
Over by Broad Ripple, right there in Midtown in the heart. And
nobody says Midtown.
We went in, and it was just a nice, warm, cozy ambiance of the Broad Ripple restaurant. Had some pies and played some Monopoly with crayons. And my kid's like obsessed with Monopoly, so we're even like faking ways to play Monopoly even when we don't have the game
Monopoly
pieces.
With crayons?
He wrote out the game pieces on this little Lou Malnati's thing.
Okay.
And he didn't write out all of them, just the properties that he likes, like Mediterranean, Boardwalk. Those are the ones that he likes.
What about Park Place?
He wasn't a big Park Place fan. No. He likes Vermont because that's where Mommy's from.
He
likes Connecticut because that's where Daddy's from.
Do they still have Oriental Avenue, or has that been
They still do. Yeah, they probably should make an update for 2023. We'll see if they end up doing that. But anyway, it was a great time. And then we drove 15 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
White knuckling it all the way back home after we got done with our pies.
But it was worth it, though, if you got your Lou Malnati's.
Order.loumalnati's.com. And even for the new year, they've got delicious offerings on their menu, ringing 2023 with some delicious za from Lou Malnati's.
In terms of our who's cooking, typically this is a Colts honor that we give on who's cooking on the football field. Tough to say here down the home stretch for the Colts. I'll tell you one that I'm going to go with, because I like it when somebody's number's called and then they're ready to go. I think an interesting thing for the Colts to explore if they're trying to rebuild or retool and figure out where they can flip things into pieces that help them elsewhere. We've talked a lot about it, and I know he's a tremendous talent. But Jonathan Taylor, to me, as good as he is, he's one of the pieces the Colts have that might actually fetch some things if you dangled him on the market. Zach Moss is one of the guys that I think makes him somewhat expendable. 15 carries, 74 yards, just under 5 yards per carry in New York. Again, I thought ran the ball hard, ran the ball well. Does that mean he's necessarily cooking? I don't know about that. It's hard to measure up to the cooking standards of Lou Malnati's, but I will give him my award partially because there aren't a whole lot else to give.
Yeah, and he's a young player still.
Yep.
He was an amazing player at Utah. I think he was the Pac-12 player of the year. From, however long ago. He's been in the league, I think, 3-4 years, however long it's been. And a good runner. And it just shows, Jake, it's not a knock on Jonathan Taylor to say this. It's just that you can get 70-80% of Jonathan Taylor fairly easily.
Correct.
You know, where it's
well,
hard to get.
As we've said, Derek, you can get 70% the production of Jonathan Taylor for 40% the cost.
It's really hard to get 80% of Justin Jefferson.
Right.
You know what I mean? Off the street. But you can do that at a position like running back. You just can. So the Colts are going to have a lot of decisions to come up here because Taylor's doing an extension, Pittman's doing an extension. And it almost feels like this year is a big fat, I think I said this on a previous show, this year is a big fat incomplete because how can I judge Taylor and Pittman and be really confident in that judgment with how terrible the pieces around them and the situation leadership-wise was with this team in 2022? And Taylor, obviously, with the injuries. That's the other thing that kind of comes in the equation. I chose Zaire Franklin.
I like Zaire Franklin.
He had 10 tackles. I mean, there wasn't really such thing as a standout performer. But, you know, here's the guy that was a 7th-round pick. If you're a 7th-round pick, you're just hoping to stick.
Yeah.
And if you stick, you're just hoping to stick as like a special teams guy.
And he's become kind of a heart and
He's
soul
a starter.
guy, right?
He's a starting caliber player in the league. And they rewarded him with a $10 million contract last offseason, and now that feels like a freaking bargain.
Yeah, you're right.
That you're making, 3.5, not even, for Zaire Franklin. Just a really nice NFL player and a guy that looks like he's going to have a long and productive NFL career.
You know the thing about him that I always find fascinating? He's got both names are on a map. Isn't that interesting?
Franklin. Franklin. There's a country named Franklin?
No.
Ben Franklin? Is somebody named something after Ben Franklin?
Do you ever get in your car?
Do I drive? Yeah.
Do you drive down 65?
Yeah.
Okay. You get out of Marion County?
Oh, because there's a town named Franklin?
What's on a map?
Well, I mean, I don't know. There's a town named Derek and a town named Schultz.
Show me where there's a
Both
town.
in Missouri, if you could believe it.
No.
But there is a Derek, Missouri, and a Schultz, Missouri. Opposite ends of the state. One's in the Ozarks and one's left by like KC.
Okay.
You can look it up. There's probably a Jake, Minnesota. I'm not sure about Query. That's a little weird.
I'll bet there's a better chance that there's a Query than a Jake.
You sure?
Yeah.
We'll have to look that up and see. But yeah, there's
what
a
state would? I hope there's a Query, Wyoming.
Then you could go live there with your dogs and your singleness and
That's
whatever
right.
else. We'll come back. We do have more football to talk about. Thankfully, the holidays were saved by two just my expectations were extremely low for the college football semifinals. Like, I thought both games were going to be really one-sided.
Yeah.
And instead you had two classics. We'll talk about that.
Bye-bye Big Ten, right?
Pacers bounce back after their first rough stretch for this young team, and they're really cooking right now. We'll discuss that as well, and plenty more to get to here as we continue. Episode 117, Query and Schultz,
117.
ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
He said it would take me 4 years to graduate.
They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood presents Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Alongside Jake Query, I'm Derek Schultz. BAWFG.com for our friends at Bailey and Wood. 855-350-HOME. If you want to refi, you want to get pre-approved for a mortgage, call Mike Wood and his team over at Bailey and Wood.
Did you do some research?
I did, yeah. So, and Jordan helped with this too.
Okay.
Jordan Shue. Jesus had 4 brothers. James, Joseph, like a form of Joseph, but
Right,
Joses. Simon, and Jude. Also, we had a couple of sisters as well. Now, this was a mix of both Mary and Joseph, perhaps sons of Joseph from a former marriage. The details are a little bit hairy.
Now, sons of Joseph would not be related to Jesus, right?
I guess maybe not technically
maybe
because of the
step.
Immaculate Conception.
Right. I mean, Joseph was his father, but like not his biological father, right?
Yeah, they're also the sons of Mary, named in Mark 15:40 as mother of James and Joseph, whom Jerome identified with the wife of Cleopas, and the sister of Mary and the mother of Jesus. So there you go.
Okay.
Amen. Let's talk about the Pacers.
I'm glad you did the amen.
Let's get that in post, because I really just I don't want to be struck. 3, 2, 1. Pacers really cooking right now, Jake. They've won 5 of 6 since that rough stretch.
You know, I watched one of these shows, Derek. They don't do any of that stuff in post that you say.
Oh, they get all of this.
No.
We have JD on board now, and he goes into Premiere Pro.
You swore
and
once, and then we got in trouble for that.
No, they take care of all this. I just let Jordan, Vince, JD, I let them do their thing. And they handle the post-production of the show, or post for short. That's just kind of what we say in the biz, so people know. Okay. Pacers have now won 5 of 6. What a stretch for them, too, because, it's not like they're beating the Magic and, like, these teams that stink. They've beaten some real good teams in this stretch here. Miami and Cleveland and the Clippers and the Celtics. Really Derek, good stretch for the Pacers here.
What's interesting to me about the Pacers and what makes this a good stretch is if you look at the Pacers this year, heading into the season, we knew they were going to be young. We knew they were retooling. And I think the Pacers thought they were going to be a few years off schedule. What they knew was that Tyrese Halliburton was a really good player and a really good passer that was going to get people involved and that guys would want to come play with him. But what we have seen so far, and this to me is what is of the most interest, or the most, I guess, positive part of it. So far this year, the young players for the Pacers have each had their turn on the stage. Benedict Mathurin at the beginning of the year came right out of the gate as a rookie playing well and looked like a leader for Rookie of the Year, along with Paolo Banchero in Orlando. Mathurin's come down to earth a little bit. That happens with rookies. Halliburton, when needed, has been dynamic and hit game-winning shots and 40-point games and everything else. When they went out west, Andrew Nembhard, guys were hurt and they were playing in Golden State, and Andrew Nembhard comes up with the game of the year, right, and shows that he is a really good player. Aaron Nesmith now, it's kind of his turn in the rotation, and he's responded with some 20-point games and really, really good wing defense. Each guy they have at different points has shown and been given opportunity to show that they belong. And Nesmith is one now all of a sudden. I mean, that was like almost a throw-in on the Malcolm Brogdon trade, a young player, and he comes over, and he's really good. And all of a sudden, I mean, Derek, they're a playoff-level team.
They're in the field right now. I don't mean in the play-in. I mean,
3
like
games
they're
over 500,
in the field.
right.
Yeah, they're the number 6 seed right now in the East with where we sit today. And they've got a game. We're taping this on Monday. They've got a game against Toronto here coming up shortly. But, what's been fun about the Pacers is that, yes, they made the Halliburton trade because you expect Halliburton to come in and be really good. You pick Ben Mathurin 6th because you expect the 6th pick in the draft to be really good. Buddy Hield was a contract throw-in from Sacramento, really. Nesmith was, as you mentioned, just we're giving up on him.
Right.
He's a bit piece. We don't have room at the inn for Nesmith, and look at what he's done so far. So the just everything that they've done, for as much as, we talked about come to Jesus moment, Kevin Pritchard was there like 13 months ago where it wasn't working. This thing was broken. They had reached the point of no return. You couldn't continue with Sabonis and all of that and just keep plodding along. It was time for change. And it just feels like every move that the Pacers have made since then has been the right move.
Right.
And even the most pie-in-the-sky expectations you could have had for these moves panning out have been eclipsed in some areas.
Where does that come from, pie in the sky?
I have no idea.
Is there like an old fable or something about
Probably.
pies?
Yeah.
I mean, if there were pies in the sky, which one would you grab?
Probably a Malnati's pie.
Yeah.
So,
although it's pizza, but
yeah. Or New Haven-style pie. I like the classic Neapolitan pie as well.
Neapolitan? Is that has chocolate, vanilla, and
No, where
strawberry?
you fold the slice. Like that style of pizza.
Yeah, you mean you do this?
Neapolitan.
That's the big slice.
And then New Haven is more like the pizza, and then Lou Malnati's is more Chicago. Detroit style, actually, like the Detroit style pie.
What's Detroit style?
It's like pan pizza, but buttery crust.
Burnt out in the middle?
Similar to Lou's, but it's usually square. You know how they give you the Lou's pie circular?
Oh, like Little Caesars.
Yeah.
Pizza.
Well,
that's based up there in Detroit. They got the Little Caesars arena.
I don't mean this to be mean. You're not advanced enough taste buds wise to kind of have this conversation about styles of food. Like you're not on my level.
Pizza?
When it comes like that. Yeah.
Because I'm not.
You like Chili's.
Sophisticated
like
enough?
My palate is more advanced than
I recently had a margarita pizza in Florence, Italy. Does that qualify?
No, not like New Haven style. Yeah, New Haven is like the real stuff. New Haven, Connecticut. That's where you get it.
Connecticut over
That's
Italy
yes.
for your pizza needs.
Florence, too touristy. Okay. Nobody actually goes to New Haven. It's delicious pizza there. I am kind of curious because the Pacers are in it, right? But maybe you can't write this off. I don't know. Like it's hard for me to take the pessimism out. They're not a real contender, right? Like
Derek, here's the
they
thing.
Couldn't actually like win a championship this year.
That's probably true, but I mean, yeah. When you look at Boston, probably Philadelphia,
yeah. So I hate
Milwaukee.
To be,
I mean, but Derek, they are right there. I mean, in terms of the pieces, right under those teams.
So I hate to be like the bottom line guy. Like I'm not trying to say win a championship or you suck. This season is almost certainly going to be a blue ribbon success type season for the Pacers, regardless of really what they do from here. But I think you still have to have one eye on 2023 and beyond, and not just look at it as, okay, let's maximize this year, because that's never what this has been about. This has been about maximizing the future. And you have these trade pieces like Turner. If you can't extend him, then you have to trade him.
Right.
You can't just sit on him and lose him for nothing.
They're not going to trade him.
If you can't extend him, you have to trade him.
Understood.
You have to.
I think they're going to extend him.
Okay, that's fine. Extending him is fine. But there are two options here. Extend him, trade him. The third option is not doable. You can't just let him walk out for nothing and let him expire this year. But Buddy Hield, he's at the absolute apex of his career right now. He's 30. He has 1 year left on his deal, a really manageable contract, $18.5 million.
And he's been really good for them.
And he's been fantastic. And so I'm not saying that Kevin Pritchard should be sweating over the phones, but you have to be thinking in your head, this is as good as it's ever going to get with Buddy Hield. You need to be taking calls about him at least.
I understand, but let me ask you this. I don't disagree with
picks, future assets, whatever.
I mean,
more of the same.
But they've got a ton of them already.
You can never have enough. Never have enough. Okay. Pile it on. Add it on.
But he's been really good for them.
He has been, but if we're being serious about the future, is Buddy Hield part of a championship Pacers core? The answer to that is likely no.
But this is the thing that the Pacers have to ask themselves. And they didn't think they'd be asking themselves this, but it's reality. You know what Jenga is? Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah, pull the bricks out.
Yeah, that's where the game, the bar type game where all the wooden blocks are set up and you have to pull one out before it crumbles. Yeah. Buddy Hield might be the key Jenga log. And the Pacers have to consider that. This group, the key guy in all of that might be Buddy Hield in terms of bringing everybody together, being a leader, and being a locker room guy. And if you recall, Derek, and I can't remember who they traded.
Danny Granger for Evan Turner?
That might have been it. And everybody was like, oh, my gosh, they got Evan Turner, like lights out. Or when they acquired Andrew Bynum.
Yeah.
And it disrupted everything.
Well, it crushed Roy Hibbert's soul. So we came to find out he was sitting in a dark room, like listening to The Cure for the next 6 months.
That was during the season too.
Yeah,
which was
it was a little bit of an issue. Had to have somebody come knock on his door and wake him up to come to practice and all that.
But that's the thing about Buddy Hield. That is the one thing.
You file it away in the good problem to have category, right? I guess.
You're right.
But I still think you have to be thinking about that.
By the way, when I was a kid, I went to a lot of Pacer games. Went to a lot of them with Chris and John Love, of Love Heating and Air Conditioning. And at that time, Their father was running Love Heating and Air, and he was the third generation. Now 4 generations of family. How about that? A 4th-generation family business. Love Heating and Air has been around for over 100 years. And the thing I love about Love Heating and Air is that they treat you like family. For example, my mom's cousin Greg needed a new unit. Matter of fact, he called me and said, Jake, I need a new furnace. Love went out there, and I love this about them. They said, you know what, Greg, you don't need a new furnace. What you need, you got some problems with your humidifier, but your furnace, they made some tweaks to it, saved them a lot of money and a lot of hassle. The honesty is, I absolutely love the honesty. They took care of my parents as well. Love Heating and Air Conditioning will treat you like family. They know about family because, as I mentioned, 4 generations now of a family-owned business. Love-HVAC.com is their website. Great product, quality of product, great prices, and a commitment to customer service, 24-hour on-call maintenance, what you get from Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Been around since 1902. Derek, our Love That Play, our favorite play from the week is?
I'm going to stick with the Pacers. Halliburton's step back to beat Miami.
Yep.
Tie
Huge.
game, final seconds. Crowd was electric.
10
How about
three-pointers.
the crowds this year?
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I'm not trying to get off on a mini rant here. People talk about this market like it sucks, it's soft, fans are fair weather. Look, in my 20 years here, if you're going to put an entertaining, fun, winning product on the floor or field, people are going to support it here. They are. And I think you're seeing that with what the Pacers have. But 43 points for Halliburton. It's capped by that three-pointer against Miami, and he's just been on a tear.
He has.
He had the 1-point game against the Knicks, right, where they really struggled, and Wally Zerbiak had some words, and here they are 6 games later, and it's been the best.
Spell Zerbiak?
2 weeks of his career. Yes.
Go ahead.
SZCZERIBAK.
I don't think that's right. I think it's okay, hold on. I think it's SCZERBIAK.
No, I got it exactly right.
How is it again?
SZCZERBIAK. I am excellent at odd name spellings.
Krzyzewski?
I can't do that one. Only players. I'm only talking about players. I'm not talking about coaches. So odd name spellings. I can do it. It's like the spelling bee. Like the kids say origin or something like that. All I need is like teams that they've played for, and I can do it in my head. So like Wally Zerbiak, origin. I don't know. He played for like 100 NBA teams.
Joe Smith.
You want me to spell Joe Smith?
No, I want you
Okay,
to tell me where he played.
JOESMITH. Every team in the NBA except for the Knicks and Pacers.
Okay, I think he did play for the Knicks.
Never a Knick. He was never a Pacer.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Know about those 2 things. Got more to get to. 2 great college football semifinals. We'll talk about that. Also, we have our Sage Move of the Week. We have Bite or Bo Bleep. Plenty more to talk about here.
A lot more.
It's Corey and Schultz. ISC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. That's a threat.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Other universities didn't fit into my life.
They said I'd have to quit my job to go to school.
They said it would take me 4 years to graduate.
They said I have to take tests when they tell me to.
They said my degree would cost a fortune.
But I didn't have to listen to them.
Because I have a university that listens to me.
Tests on your time, courses on your time, graduate on your time. WGU, the University of You.
Jake, it was celebration, I'm sure, in your household, not only to ring in a new year and another year alive, because we weren't so sure you're going to make it out of 2020 with the ticker, but also to see Ohio State's kick sail way, way off to the left and get to avoid having the potential of a Ohio State heavy favor or every favorite, I should say, national championship game coming up later this year.
It's been a while since I've worn this hat. I've had it since my sophomore year in high school, so it's a little small.
Look at that.
Should adjust.
Everyone had those script hats.
Look how dirty this thing is.
Yeah.
It's actually
that
clean.
was cool. That's what you did. You needed to make sure your hat looked like it got chewed up by a dog.
Correct.
Like that was the cool way. Like this whole idea of like flat build, like sticker still on it, pristine hat. You would get beat up in school if you had a flat billed hat.
Love them dogs, man.
Yeah.
Love them dogs. I don't really. Georgia's cool. I got no problem with Georgia. Yeah. But I don't like Ohio State.
Here pretty soon, if they start a dynasty, then you're going to get real sick of Georgia.
No, you're right. But it's, I mean, whatever. Alabama had their turn.
Yeah.
You know. It was a great game. And certainly Ohio State, if they were 100% healthy, probably win that game.
The targeting in the end zone, I thought. There were 2 targeting calls that I think I'm less confident that changes the scope of the Michigan game, even though you can go back to that touchdown. I mean, he was clearly in the end zone. You say he's down at the 1, and then they fumble. So that was a poorly officiated game all around. But I thought Georgia got a huge break with that no call.
This hat looks a little small on me for some reason.
But I'm just happy, Jake, that the whole problem that I've had with the idea of expanding the college football playoff is that most years there haven't been 4 worthy teams to win a national title, much less 8 or 12.
Right.
And this year you had 2 games which really could have gone either way. And if Michigan beats TCU, they could be national champions.
Derek,
if Ohio State beats
big time credit to
Georgia,
TCU, though.
they could
Big
be.
time credit because Sonny Dykes' TCU team, who was picked 7th in the Big 12, comes into this season. They got a dynamic wide receiver who's going to be a top 10 pick. But they went into that game against Michigan, and they took control of it early. And then each time that Michigan started to answer, they would –
every time it teetered, they came back with a big play.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought they were going to get crushed. I thought, pound for pound, I think I said this on the show, that I thought Michigan was going to win the national championship. Like, I thought
Ohio State was.
That's how good they were. And to just keep coming back. Look, Michigan made a ton of mistakes, but they took advantage of every mistake. You have to give TCU credit for that. And just a ridiculous season. I mean, this was a program that had been 23-24 over the last 4 seasons. You know, Gary Patterson did a ton of great things there, but then, as it usually does, it either plateaus or it goes like this. And for Sonny Dykes to come in and just completely turn it around like this and have a shot at – you would have been laughed out of the room if you would have suggested that TCU would be playing for a national championship.
Does Jim Harbaugh now become the front runner for the head coach of the Colts?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's your first call.
Right.
And I do wonder, Jake – I guess I shouldn't say this confidently because things can always change. I have a hard time believing that Michigan is ever going to have things set up the way that they were right now to win a national championship in the future here, in the near future with Harbaugh.
Right.
Like this to me, and
feels
look,
like their
you
shot.
could say, look, Georgia was in their way, right? This is a great Georgia team. This felt like their real shot to win the whole thing. I thought they had an easier game in the semifinal. And just watch, TCU will come out and win the whole thing and make me eat my words. But I thought this was the opportunity for them to really break through.
Hard
And
to
the
argue
fact that
that
they didn't, I wonder if Harbaugh looks at it that way. You know, they have like the 17th recruiting class this year.
I thought I was worried for Michigan's sake that they were going to get into the national championship game, and a month after planting the flag in the middle of Ohio Stadium was going to have to face Ohio State right over again and then get blown out of the building.
Though, the intrigue?
Yeah, but they would have been blown out of the building.
You've undersold Michigan. I think it's because you hate Ohio State so much, but I feel like you've undersold how good Michigan is.
I think Michigan's very good.
Yeah.
But I just think, Derek, it's awfully tough with a rival like that, with 2 teams that are that close to one another, with the explosive offense of Ohio State. It would have been really tough to turn around and have to do it again 3 weeks later.
I'm just glad that now that all the other bowl games are nothing more than empty entertainment, right? Like Notre Dame, South Carolina, really fun game. It didn't mean anything.
Right.
Clemson, Tennessee for 3 quarters was a fun game. It didn't mean anything.
Right.
These games not only were fun, you were living and dying on every play. How many times did you say to yourself, okay, this is where Michigan comes back and wins this game by 21, or this is where Georgia comes back and they win this game by 21, and it never happened.
I thought there were like 3 different times where I texted people that are Ohio State fans and said, this game's over.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And it worked out perfectly.
When they were up 13 at the end of the third quarter, I really did think, wow, this is happening here. And, you know, give Georgia credit. I think where they failed.
Everything in the last 5 minutes had to go Georgia's way.
Yeah.
Everything.
1st and 10 on the Georgia, whatever it was, 25. I think they got conservative. I think you have to keep your foot on the gas there.
Right.
And it felt like they were playing for the long field goal. And you can't do
I'd
that.
agree.
You got to drive the stake through
I'd agree
them.
with that.
Sage Move of the Week brought to you by our friends at WGU Indiana. New year, maybe a new you, maybe a
That's
new
true.
degree. WGU.edu/Indiana. Our buddy Corey Elliott watched Texas lose 5 losses for Texas, which happens every year. I mean, Texas loses at least 5 games seemingly every year now.
You're going to rub this in, Corey?
Well, no, I'm not trying to rub it in. I'm just speaking factually about the current state of Texas football. But if you want to change and not keep plotting a la a Texas, you want to be a TCU, let's say, with your degree and with your career. Call our friends at WGU Indiana. Well, don't call them. Actually, go online. That's what you have to do.
WGU.edu/Indiana.
And earn a great degree and advance your career and maybe advance your paycheck in a job that you already have.
Because ambition never rests, by the way.
Sonny Dykes at TCU. Just Sage Move of the Week, right? TCU.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen that happen, Jake, where programs get one coach and he takes them to a certain level and then they immediately fall back? And TCU not only doesn't fall back, they advance. I don't think anybody would have looked at Sonny Dykes' resume and been like, oh, God, that's the guy that's ascending,
Right.
that's going to bring it. You know, Sonny Dykes has been around forever, and he's won everywhere that he's gone, but he's won,
at lesser tier programs,
8
right?
games, 9
Right.
games, whatever else. He's won the Gasparilla Bowl or whatever, the Belk Bowl, whatever the equivalent of these bowls are at SMU and Cal and Texas Tech, and now to be 1 win away from a national title. I mean, it's an incredible story.
It is
what
cool.
they've done.
And TCU is a beautiful campus, by the way. Beautiful campus. But
I heard Fort Worth's just great. I've never
Fort
spent
Worth
any
is
time
cool.
down there. The Metroplex.
But don't forget, if you are looking for a college degree, you don't need to spend $75,000 a year at a TCU. You can do it right from the comfort of your own living room with WGU.edu/Indiana in terms of an online program or a job certification. WGU Indiana has the programs, Indiana's largest online accredited university.
How about your buddy Mac? He's a real straight shooter. I mean, if you would have told Mac Engel, a Fort Worth Star-Telegram, one of Jake's childhood best friends, saved his life, essentially.
He did, yeah.
He's been a longtime columnist on there. If you would have told him in September that he'd be going to, is it Miami?
Where is the championship? I think it is Miami, yeah.
Or is it L.A.?
I think it's Miami. I'm pretty sure it's Miami.
Okay.
The championship game?
Yeah. Okay. Wherever he's going to watch TCU play a national championship game.
Let's see here,
I mean,
Derek.
he would have
Let me
laughed
look
you
it up.
out of the room. For some reason, I thought it was L.A. Now that it just popped into my head.
All right, I'm looking it up. Stand by.
Yeah.
You just
Let's
sit-
see. It was the Peach Bowl.
You just sit over there and tap dance.
And the Fiesta, right? College football. Your phone's so slow. National championship.
I've got it right here. College football playoff. Stand by.
Yeah. Here it is. Monday, January 9th. That's Eastern time, and it's in SoFi Stadium.
It is in L.A.
Which is in, yeah.
That's what I
LA.
told you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That popped into my head. I heard somebody mention that. But Mac would have been like, you're crazy, man. And here they are. We'll come back final time. Buy it or bull bleep. Also, we'll talk a little college hoop. Big Ten season resumes for Purdue, Indiana.
2 unbeatens left, Derek.
Et cetera.
2.
Yeah, and one of them is the Boilers.
Do you know the other?
I have to say Boiler up contractually. I have
Do you know
to
the
say
other?
that. Yes. It was your 50th state.
Correct.
We'll come back and tell you
Correct
what that is
mundo.
when we return. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey and Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey and Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
By the way, Derek, the latest college basketball AP poll, Purdue, number 1 in the land, getting 60 of 61 first-place votes.
4 straight weeks now, right?
Yeah, you know who was the other first-place vote?
No.
Somebody voted for UConn.
They just lost.
I know.
How about, there's been a lot of negative with Indiana. That little win at Cintas Center over Xavier has aged quite nicely, hasn't it?
Let's see.
That's going to be a nice little feather in the cap for IU's resume.
Now.
Well, Xavier's got to be well into the top 20 now, right?
Stand by.
Because they were 22 or 20. They were on the fringe of the top 25 when they beat UConn.
The other undefeated team in college basketball, not named Purdue,
New Mexico.
Right. And
where are they ranked?
Hang on, my phone skipped here. Hold on, where's
we have 9 minutes left. Well, like 8 minutes now on the show.
Rankings. Hold on, I got to slide over to rankings.
Let's talk about Purdue.
Here we go. Here we go. Sorry.
Okay.
Well, that's not up.
Okay, forget it. Purdue and Indiana both returned to Big Ten play. Big weeks for both of them. Purdue has Rutgers, at Ohio State, at Penn State. In fact, both teams go at Penn State. I think especially a critical home week for Indiana because you've got Iowa and Northwestern at home.
I think I've got it here, the newest poll.
Okay, tell me then.
Purdue's number 1, followed by Houston, Kansas, Connecticut, and Arizona. That's the top 5.
Okay.
Next 5, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Gonzaga, and UCLA.
Where's New Mexico?
Stand by, please.
Okay, keep going.
Patience
I didn't know you were going to read the whole top 25.
11 through 15, Virginia, Miami of Florida, Arkansas, Wisconsin, and Indiana. So the Hoosiers up to 15.
Okay.
Next
Wisconsin's
5,
been playing well.
Duke, TCU, Xavier is 18th.
So they only moved up like 5 spots then. That's
Baylor
surprising.
and Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
New Mexico, who was 14-0, up 1 spot to
21.
number 21.
Yeah.
Followed by Auburn, Charleston. How about that?
Yeah.
Ohio State and Iowa State.
College of Charleston had a run there in the 90s where they
John
were
Kress,
winning
baby.
NCAA tournament games, I feel like, almost every year. Purdue, at some point, is going to lose a game, right? I don't think that's a controversial opinion.
It's going to happen against Penn State in the Palestra in Philadelphia.
And at Ohio State is a tough place to play. It is. But Rutgers is a sneaky tough game. I mean, they're so good at Mackey that I think you just always assume that Purdue's going to win at Mackey. But they have stubbed their toe at home over the past couple of years, randomly at times.
I noticed you've got a lot of Purdue stickers on your.
Indiana has to beat Iowa and Northwestern. Those are 2 games. Iowa's playing terribly right now.
Yeah, they are.
You got to win those 2, and then you go at Penn State and whatever. It's Big Ten on the road. I mean, hopefully you win all 3.
Penn State's decent, Derek.
Oh, yeah, Penn State's a good team.
Micah Shrewsbury's done a good job
But that's
with them.
one of the easier road atmospheres to play in the conference, generally speaking. But still, you have to take care of business at home. Iowa and Northwestern are must-win games. Got to have those.
I would agree with that.
Cards in 60. Let's talk Ball State rolling.
Yeah.
In non-league
Michael
play,
Lewis's
men and
group
women.
Come together here.
So the men have won 5 straight. They open up MAC play, not to be confused with the MAC, which would be like St. Peter's and Fairfield. They visit Toledo on Tuesday.
Nobody says that. It's
Akron on Friday.
Isn't that Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference?
Yeah, there's an extra A in there.
Yeah, it's just Mid-Atlantic.
You have to carry the A.
MAAC.
Like when you do the tongue depressor thing, do they still do that at physicals with the ice cream stick? That's what you're saying to differentiate. They can't both be the MAC.
I know.
You don't
so
know
one's
which
the
team it is.
MAAC.
Nobody says MAAC. Did you grow up in the tri-state? So you have no idea of the culture and the issues that have been faced over the years by the MAC with Fairfield and St. Peter's and all of the schools at Manhattan, all the schools that are in there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't grow up there, so
Siena.
I can't name 3 in 45 seconds.
Yeah, see? So leave it to the expert to tell you about
Colgate?
MAC history. Colgate's not in that league,
And the
Jake. We
Patriot.
talked about that. Yeah, they're not in that league. You don't know anything about the MAC.
Siena?
Siena is in that league.
Okay.
So 9-4 for the Ball
Iona?
State men. Iona's in that league. There you go. Very good. 10-3 for the women. They won 8 of their last 9 in non-league play. They open up at home against Bowling Green. Tickets at Worthing
Fordham?
Arena. 888. No.
Yeah, A10.
Yeah. 888 BSU ticket. BallStateSports.com.
Lehigh?
No. They're also Patriot, I think, aren't they? Lehigh?
Lafayette?
I think they're Patriot too.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not in
George Mason?
I don't know where George Mason left the Colonial. That's when they beat UConn and made that run to the Final Four. I'm not sure where are they Conference USA now, George Mason? I think they are.
Conference USA to me feels like the junk drawer,
catch-all.
right? It's
Yeah,
just
it's a
like,
catch-all.
all this crap left over.
But, you know,
conference.
man, when you and I were growing up, well, maybe not growing up, but in the 90s, Conference USA was legit.
Oh,
like Marquette and
Mac
Cincy.
Ingle,
And
the aforementioned Mac
those are some
Ingle.
good
In 1991, no, I'm sorry, 1992, Mac Ingle and I were both at the University of Kansas. We got tickets to the regional final in Kemper, the Midwest region, and it was Memphis and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Anthony Hardaway's Memphis team, and then the
Memphis
Cincinnati
State then.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati beat them to go to the Final Four. I think Van Exel might have been on that team.
Yeah, he was.
And I just remember Mac and I sitting there. Mac's like, one of these teams is going to the Final Four, and it was Cincinnati. They went to the Final Four, got beat by Duke. Is that right? No.
Duke played Indiana in the first semifinal.
Got beat by Michigan.
Yeah.
And Indiana played Duke.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was tough because that kind of felt like the Cincy bracket was where it felt at the time. Am I right in saying? I mean, I was 9 years old. That Duke and Indiana was kind of the championship game.
No question.
Like that's
no
that's
question.
how you felt. The winner of that game is going to win it all.
How about this, Derek? The 1992 Final Four in Minneapolis. Michigan, Cincinnati, Duke, Indiana. That was the first time that the Final Four took place where all four participants what? First time it had ever happened.
Duke, Cincinnati, Indiana, Michigan.
Yes.
First time all four I really have no idea.
It's the first time that all Final Four participants had previously won the NCAA tournament.
Oh, cool. Because Cincinnati did in like the 60s or something, right?
Yeah.
With Oscar?
Right after Oscar.
Okay.
62.
Gotcha. Let's get to our Chateau Kitchens Biter Bowl Bleep so we wrap up for today.
You see the things that you learn from me?
Well, you learned about Jesus' brothers and Mac history, so I'm leading 2-1 in the I learned something today category.
Jordan actually gave me the
And then I imparted that knowledge on you.
But they're
I can name all the books of the New Testament.
Go ahead.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrews, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 3 books of John, Jude, and Revelations.
And that's which testament?
New.
Okay.
Old, I can't even tell you. I don't even know.
Genesis.
Deuteronomy.
Genesis is the first one, right?
And then Deuteronomy. Whatever that. I can't say it. It's a hard one to say. It's Romany. We'll get all that in post. Let's cut it at the New Testament where everyone's impressed. I want to leave them impressed. 3, 2, 1. Chateau Kitchens Biter Bowl Bleep, brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures. They're going to do great work for you. We're starting on our basement. 2023, the year of the new basement in the Schultz household. So I don't know why I threw the Ball State helmet. Give them a call today. Steven is the owner, great dude. Ryan, one of the project managers, great dude. Megan, one of the project designers, great person. Everyone involved there at Chateau, great people.
Gotcha. Okay.
Biter Bowl Bleep.
His house does look good.
The Pacers will make the playoff field, not the play-in. So one of the top 6 seeds.
I buy it. At this point, they're going for it. I buy it.
Yeah, I think they'll be a playoff team. I think they'll end up in the play-in. I think ultimately this will be a round of – I think this will be like a 40-ish win team, 42, 43 win team.
Okay.
Which is essentially how they've played so far, right? They're 20-17.
Right.
So they're around a 500 team. I think they'll – but, Jake – their over-under win total in Vegas was 24.5.
I hear you.
Like, they're going to eclipse that next week.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how good they've been. Ohio State won't win a national championship with Ryan Day. Biter Bowl Bleep.
Bull Schultz. They're going to win it in the next – I mean, come on, man.
How many Ohio State friends do you have?
Friends?
Yeah. I think I have an inordinate amount of Ohio State fan friends. And almost all of them hate Ryan Day. Like they think this season is a total failure.
I know.
Like they didn't win the league, they didn't beat Michigan, they didn't go anywhere in the playoff. Like this season, they were 11-2, and this season, that's a great place to be. Like if you're,
I think they feel like he's John Cooper.
Yeah. If you're an Alabama fan, you just went 11-2 and won the Sugar Bowl by 4 touchdowns, and your season was a disappointment.
Yeah,
like, isn't that a great place to be?
Clemson's 11-3, and they lost the Orange Bowl. It's like,
you won the league, and that season's a failure. I'm going to say yes. I feel like Ohio State's just always going to be there, but he's missing something to me. I think the game management aspect of it. They haven't particularly been great in big games with Ryan Day. Like with Urban Meyer, say what you want, he's a total sleazebag. You always felt supremely confident that he was going to push all the right buttons. Right. I don't think you'd say that about Ryan Day. Statement 3, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers will play in the NFC Championship game. Packers are likely going to make it. Bucks, got about 30 seconds here.
Bull Schultz.
Yeah. I'm going to buy it.
I mean,
it's just going to happen because it always
I could see it.
Seems to happen.
I know.
Thanks to Bailey & Wood Financial Group, Lou Malnati's Pizzeria,
Chateau
our friends
Kitchens.
at Ball State Sports.
Love Heating and Air.
Everybody, have a great new year. Hope you had a great 2022. Hope it's a great 2023. Thanks to Vince. Thanks to JD. Thanks to Jordan. Until next time, for Jake Query, I'm Derek Schultz. Bye. We'll see you next time. Query and Schultz.